Did you need me to repeat that? Okay. And who's taking roll? Is that you, Reese? Okay, roll call. And Dawn, can you lead us in the pledge? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Did everyone take a look at the minutes from our September 15th, 2025 meeting? Any comments or concerns there? No? Can I get a motion? Dawn makes a motion to approve. Tashidra's got a second. All in favor? Aye. And Tashidra abstains. You caught that, Reese? Okay. We are moving ahead to public comments. I think we have one person that's speaking. Okay, and that would be David Roth. Just, turn on your microphone. You got to have it kind of close.
All right. I'm David Roth, 815 Shooting Star Circle, DeForest, Wisconsin. Go. All right. Thanks everyone for your time tonight. I'm an 11-year DeForest resident. I'm also one of the organizers of the DeForest Norski Thunder baseball program. For those of you who aren't familiar with our team, like Sam and Reese are, we are a single team of 12 players. We are all members of the Windsor DeForest School District, and we have previously always qualified for the sanctioned organization program. I'm here to talk to you tonight about the proposed changes to the sanctioned organization program, because our organization would not have been formed without the existing rule. The program as it was made it affordable for our families to be able to join the program and play baseball with us. And with the proposed pay changes, that would be potentially at risk. Just looking at what last year was versus this year, the proposed changes would be about a 50% increase to our overall budget for the entire year, as well as a 600% increase or more to our field usage fees. So when all of the funds are coming out of our individual families, that is a significant increase for us. That will make it problematic for us to do the things that we've offered the things that we have in the past. And so in addition to that, I'm aware of at least 2 other similar organizations, which would be in a very similar spot to us. So that would be 35 to 40 families that would be potentially impacted by the proposed changes. And so with that in mind, I wanted to suggest some potential changes to the proposal that we think would be beneficial. Number 1 would be a 2-option system in which we keep the existing rules for 50% residency, which is what we've always qualified under, while extending to larger organizations the rules that are proposed in the new presentation. So the additional items that need to be met, 4 teams and a few other things that are mentioned on there. That would allow those who have been a part of the program previously to continue as part of the program, while opening it up to others to allow more access, which I understand would be great for everybody, right? Another suggestion would be to offer legacy sanctioned organizations an extension to continue. If you choose to discontinue the program as it's written now, you could offer ourselves and the 3 or 4 others that are part of the program the option to stay, since we have been good standing members for 3+ years. Or at least at a minimum, allow for a 1 to 2 year roll-in period for the increased fees to allow us to help compensate in our budgeting process for the next year. That would be advantageous. And finally, there's really a secondary component to the proposed changes that would significantly impact us, which is the scheduling priority. As it stands now, we are part of the second group of scheduling priority, which is right after the Parks Departments themselves. In the new proposal, we would be the lowest tier along with outside groups. That includes for-profit outside groups, which we are not.
Dave, that's been 3 minutes.
Can I say one thing in conclusion? Is that okay? So just to conclude, we're all for opening it up to as many more people, but we just still like to be able to be. So, thank you.
Thank you. No more public appearances? Okay. Any presentations? None. Discussion item 7.1. Discussion regarding wellhead protection plan.
Yep, Judd and I have been working with Wisconsin Rural Water Association to update our wellhead protection plan. Currently, wells 2, 3, and 4 are the only wells in that plan. Well 5 is in that plan, but we have since abandoned that well. So we need to include well 6 into our current plan. So we've been working on it with Wisconsin Rural Water on that, and we have included the new plan in this packet. So if you guys have any questions, you know, they look at how our aquifers flow into our wells. They're typically like a northwest influence or northeast influence, except for well 3, that's kind of northwest. But we kind of look at what's happening, where our water's coming from, and we want to protect that. We've got a 1,200-foot radius of each well that's protected where we can. You know, we don't want certain developments or certain businesses or actions to go near those wells because that could contaminate the water. So that's the main reason we have a wellhead protection plan, is to protect the wells. We are looking at drilling another well probably next year, a test well. So once we do that, we'll have to update the plan again, but we wanted to get well 6 in the protection plan as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you. Do trustees have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Dawn.
I noticed well number 2 says there's current. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well number 2 has no auxiliary power, but the other wells do. So what happens if?
So power goes out on well 2, wells 3, 4, and 6 will kick on. Those all have auxiliary power. Well 2 is the lowest capacity well that we have, so it doesn't actually pump a lot of water. It's the wells 3, 4, and 6 that pump most of our water.
Has it ever been considered to get power at that well?
No, there used to be one. That motor stopped working. We decided that when it's not worth the money to put it in, because could be a couple $100,000 to install for a low producing well. Doesn't pay.
You mentioned looking for a new well.
Yep.
Where would that be?
So that'd be on Innovation Drive and Autumn Blaze Trail on the corner.
Okay.
That's in our budget for our CIP plan for next year. Is to do that test well there.
When you check wells, private wells, septic systems, I read something about, have we had an issue with septic systems or private wells contaminating the groundwater or anything?
We have not, because we don't allow septics in the village or wells. If there is a well, it's grandfathered in, and but I think maybe there's one well in the village right now,
Okay, thank you.
private well.
Okay. Anybody else or did you
I
want
want to add, just as a reminder that, so this is where we were looking to add well 7. Here's the corner of Innovation and Autumn Blaze Trail. This piece of land is dedicated for that. Currently there's a tornado siren on this lot. That's it. So this is where we would do that well 7 test location. We are looking at that, and We have been studying for a bit with our water rate study that's happening with the PSC for additional storage system, right? So another elevated tower somewhere. So that would probably be over in this general areas where we're leaning towards. And if this well doesn't work, we may look to put a well over on this side for that purpose. By Hickory Lane or in that northern area, so.
Okay, anybody else? Someone like to make a motion? Oh, we're not voting on this, sorry. Okay, 7.2, discussion and recommendation on the sanctioned organization definition. Reese?
Right, let me get, so we did make a small update to the presentation after having a phone call with Dave on Friday. So it's not much different than what was in the packet, but I'll note where there is the difference. So we had this discussion, obviously we've been talking about sanctioned organizations for a few years as we've been talking about the athletic complex and the operational costs for that. So this is an updated presentation from one that we provided in March, just with some more information and then obviously with the proposed changes. So when you look at groups that are participating, we have the high school varsity and JV softball, JV baseball. They're not a heavy user. It's more weather dependent in the spring of when they can get onto their fields. So they do get priority. We even give them priority over any of our programs to get onto those fields and work around them. And we obviously get to use their facilities, so it's mutually beneficial. We have Windsor Heat, which had 12 teams this year. DeForest Area Youth Football had 12. Norski Thunder, Prime, Elite, and the summer futsal all had 1 team. And then fall ball, we had Windsor Heat had 4, and Norski Thunder did some practices this fall. Looking at the fields that we have in the village, so we have the 2 at Fireman's, the 2 at Yahara, the 4 out at the athletic complex, and then the 2 long fields. So the long fields are mostly where, well, not mostly, that's where DAFL uses the DeForest Area Youth Football. But otherwise, all the other groups would be using the other 8 fields. And then breaking down the Diamond users, so we have our recreation programs, which is co-ed T-ball, rookie boys and girls softball. We do U10 to U12 softball, and then we have adult kickball that are our users. Then we have the sanctioned groups, adult softball leagues, which are considered those local leagues or local adult leagues. And then we have general users, which are mostly on weekends. We have some that are sprinkled throughout the weeknight, but they're not a heavy weeknight user. The ordinance, as it stands right now, is in chapter 16, and we have the 2 definitions. One is the sanction program, which is that 50% who have to be Village of DeForest residents. And then the local adult league, that definition is there, just showing kind of the requirements that are needed for that level. Both of them receive discounted rental rates compared to general user groups. And then it just breaks down to the number of participants that are served throughout each one of those groups based off of the information that we've received. So you can see, obviously, we have a lot of kiddos and some adults in the village recreation programs, and then the sanctioned organizations and adult softball. We have kind of in general practiced of having Windsor Heat and DeForest Area Youth Football grandfathered in. And when we started having these discussions more and having Windsor DeForest really kind of start to ask questions about being a part of it, it seemed like it wasn't fair to make some groups not have to follow the rules and others. So we started working on getting true numbers from all of the groups to find out where we actually laid. And this is where we found out that both Windsor Heat and DeForest Area Youth Football would not meet the 50% requirement based off of residency, which would impact 385 players out of the 433 total sanctioned players from the program. So that's where that we really took a look at that of saying that's of significant impact to the community and taxpayers for our community. So when you look at the usage breakdown, field rental breakdown, this is just per date, like time slot. It's not on hours. So sanctioned user groups are at 39%. Then we have almost 40%, and that's the same. Actually, we're at the same amount for rec programs. And then we have high school, which is at almost 2%. The other, which of those would be the general user groups, tournaments and stuff like that, that would be almost 16%. And then adult softball is that 3%. And, you know, I think again, it's interesting when you think about the total amount of people that are participating in the amount of usage that we're having for the facilities. And then we get like further down into what we're bringing in from revenue from each one of those groups. So the village taxpayers subsidize operations for the athletic complex at $100,000 a year. And so that means that the village is subsidizing about 58% of the maintenance for the complex. Sanctioned groups are covering about 4.5%. Let's see, what is this one? Adult softball is 2%. And then we have other, which is covering about 35.5%. So again, trying to think about those taxpayers, what is the best bang for the buck and how can we serve the most amount of people? So on average, the Village of DeForest household in 2025, based on the operation costs, pays $15.93 towards maintenance and operation. When we did this, we also wanted to find out, you know, like, again, what's that true cost recovery if we wanted the complex to be able to break even, which from that discussion in March, you know, I don't feel like that was really the direction that the board was giving, but it was, if we're going to subsidize it, then how do we make sure that Village of DeForest residents are benefiting the most because they're paying their taxes out of it. So we broke it down, and to have cost recovery for an hour and a half time slot, we would have to be recovering $65.90 to get to cost recovery. We did some breakdowns with the different sanctioned groups of what the cost is based off of their usage per hour. So if you look at this, we have the first group, they had 133 hours of rentals. They paid a total of $14.60, and so their average per hour usage is $10.98. And then, you know, I mean, we all can read. I don't need to go through each one of these, but you can just see the kind of difference. So, you know, things that definitely impact that is that if you're a higher practice user, you're paying a one-time fee, and then every single time you're diluting what that cost is that you're paying for that usage. So we have the most is, you know, $10.98, and the lease is $3.01 that is being paid for an hour. And as we just talked about, it's, you know, $66 for cost recovery. So that was in 2024. That's what was presented earlier. This is in 2025. It's the, we did match up. So the same group, Sanction A, Sanction B, those would all match with what was on the previous slide. So again, you can kind of just see that there are sometimes differences because it depends on the amount of practices or games they're having, number of teams. But so here we have the highest amount for a team is $16.50, and then the lowest is $3.51 that a group is paying per hour. We went to try to find some comparables again when we gave this presentation, and I will tell you that facilities are not apples to apples. Every community really does it kind of differently and finds what works for them. So this was more just an opportunity to kind of show, I mean, I think we've looked at this and I know that some groups have looked at us too to see how we model things. So Culver Park, which is that new park that's in Sauk Prairie, they've modeled some of their stuff pretty close to what we're doing for the general users, and this is actually even what their local groups are required to pay. They model their tournaments just a little different. They give more of a discount for the more days that you do. But not every community offers sanctioned programs. Some do it resident, non-resident. So it really depends. Did you have a question?
I just have a question for the Culver Park. Does Culver's actually give money towards that then? I mean, do they help?
So Culver's did give, I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but they did give so much money towards the building the park. Yeah. So this is kind of where we looked at again of how could we propose changes that aren't going to be a significant financial impact on the revenues that we are bringing in as a village? How do we get the most amount of residents that are using the program? And two, we try to think about what was the intent of this sanction program when it first started. Because Judd and I were trying to look to see like when we could find that it started, and I was searching in our on-base system for forever and it was just making me frustrated. So I will find it though, because now I'm determined. But you know, one of the things that we felt that the program, how it was designed for, was to be for inclusive programs for our entire community. But we also realized that there are a lot of kids in the community and there's a lot of different opportunities. And so we did want to try to present something that, while we knew these single teams were going to be impacted by the potential changes, we still wanted to provide discounted opportunities for them. So that's where we are recommending that definition change for the local teams so that they would still get at least a 50% discount on any rental rates. But so going through this, the criteria that we found we thought would be inclusive to the community, but also be restrictive of not allowing for-profit groups or other organizations that might have a heavy amount of DeForest kids from getting a discount. We went through and we wanted to make sure, so they're a not-for-profit, that they have open registration for DeForest Area School District without having any limitations. It's not an invitation only. They literally have to have open registration like we have open registration for all of our programs. They would have a minimum of at least 4 teams so that they again are showing that they're offering to the community. And then yeah, they'd have to reside within the DeForest Area School District, and they would be able to hold insurance and have the village named as an additionally insured. And that's just an extra layer. I mean, we are covered from insurance on usage, but it's just an extra layer of protection if something were to happen. So when you look at that, the main groups in the community, so Windsor Heat, Windsor DeForest Baseball, and DeForest Area Youth Football, they have 731 youth participants in the DeForest area. And the single groups do comprise of 48 participants from the area as well. And so as the program is right now, if we were to keep it the same, that means the program would be covering 48 participants from the community, and we would then be excluding the 731. Sanction program fees. One of the other things that we would be recommending with this is to add in a non-resident fee that would be required with their practice scheduling fee. So this kind of just shows what that change in impact would be for the three major groups that would qualify off of the recommended changes. So you can see we based it off of the numbers from the rosters that we had. So there would be, it means there's 68 kids from this group. There's 138 kids from this group and 217 kids from this group that are non-residents. This would be an annual fee for the organization. And then they would pay the practice scheduling fee. And then the game fees would still be the same. And then the practice scheduling fee is also per team. And then these groups are allowed to do a tournament. If there is a tournament weekend available, we won't kick a returning tournament at this point. They would have to find an open weekend. Trying to see, what did I? So the proposed changes would bring in an increase of roughly $6,000 in revenue. And then the alternatives for the single teams was to change a different definition. So basically kind of combining those two definitions. And then game prices would go up to $75. If they wanted to do a tournament, they could do one for $75 per field. And one of the things too is with the games is that it is per field, so they could do a double header on a day and it would still be $75. So they're not paying $75 per game where they were paying $40 per game. But the biggest hit is really the practice time. And so it's $30 for an hour and a half time slot where they paid $50 for practices for the entire season. We did talk about or we added in the $15, so a discounted rate for during the day, just to try to, again, try to make it even a more affordable option, but we do understand that families work and that's not always feasible. With this too, actually, I had a discussion with the school district today and did find out that they do not charge local groups for rentals of their JV fields for practices. So that could be another option for practices as well. So looking at the impacts of the updated fees as is proposed in here right now, you can see, I mean, it is a significant, like Dave said, it is a significant increase and an impact not only to his group, but to the other groups as well. And you can see where that impact comes in. It really is in those practice hours. So game totals do increase, but it's not a significant amount. But where you see that impact is the amount of practices that a group might have. And then the final part of this was working on the scheduling preference. And so with the proposal and having some, significantly larger groups, it would take that local group and it would move them into tier 3, which is with GRB as well. So that was a board decision from a few years ago. GRB they came before the board and basically petitioned that they're a DeForest taxpayer and they're a heavy user of the complex for weekends and have a high amount of DeForest kids. So the board decided to allow them to be in a tier before the general users. But we would have the sanctioned user groups would be in tier 2, and then we would look to have all those local groups with GRB be able to reserve right after. This is something that I would say GRB is not a significantly heavy user on weeknights. They really kind of like sprinkle in when is available, and it hasn't been an issue so far for us with them. So kind of going into the options, and this is, you'll see where I added one of the changes is, so option 1 would be to make no changes to the sanction organization policy. But then that would mean Windsor Heat, Forest Area Youth Football would no longer qualify. Then option two would be to make the recommended changes both to the sanction organization program and local league definition to include all. I know one of the recommendations that Dave had gave tonight and that we had talked about last week was looking to see if there would be an opportunity to give a grace period. We did not realize that, you know, some of the teams have had all of their tryouts already for next year. So there was no ill intent in like the timing that we were trying to present this to make it so that they didn't have all the options. And I mean, I know that there would be options for Windsor DeForest baseball, but I'm not sure the level. I mean, it sounds like that's kind of a different level than what they would be looking for. But we would be agreeable to allowing for a grace period, but they would have to pay the fees that we would change that non-resident fee. And then we do believe that they should be down in that scheduling preference priority, just so that we can see how the impacts of having some larger groups like Windsor DeForest baseball get in, so we can get them scheduled and then we can work them into the schedule as well. And then option three would be to only make changes to the sanction programs only. So, and I will say, I mean, this is nothing against, there was nothing against these groups. I mean, they have been good to work with. It was really, you know, for us, it was looking at this holistically and trying to figure out what was the intent of this program? How can we serve the most Village of DeForest residents? And how can we make sure that we're still being like fiscally responsible with revenue for the complex? We can't hand out sanction programs to everybody because then we'll bring in like no money. And so that's kind of where this came from. We're happy to take any questions and go from there.
Reese and Sam, thank you for putting all this information together and researching this all. There's a lot here. And there's a lot to consider from all aspects. That being said, I guess I'll open it up to Eric. You want to go first?
Couple questions. Mr. Roth, you had mentioned that you were asking about having a roll-in period, that 3 to 5 years type of thing where it could. Okay, how would that affect it overall? At this point, if we did.
But I think that's what we were saying, is that giving a grace period, we would not have an issue with. I think it would just have to be really clear of not continuing to allow new groups to come in, because then at what point do we stop? And we need to have a clear answer for us as well. You know, of when are we moving to the new process? So 1 year I didn't account for a significant budget increase for next year. We left the budget the same for next year. So we could easily do it for 1 year.
I'm just wondering, because I think I understood what you were saying. There's a lot here to digest. But if we could do it over a few years and we didn't add any new ones in, as you were saying, sanctioned ones, and the old ones could stay about where they are, but small increases, and we let the new ones, if they want to come in, pay it. Is there any way that we could work with the teams and the town and see if we can get more, I don't want to say grants, but if Culver's can afford one, and obviously Quick Trip can, couldn't we try to get more corporate sponsorship? I mean, it would make sense. The teams would have to work maybe 2 or 3 times during the year, raise some money, which I don't think would be too bad. And the town could work trying to find out if there's plenty of companies around here that throw money around for nothing, especially at the university level. I know, I teach. It's only $100,000, which I hate to say it is pretty small. So when we look at it, even if we could get it $25,000, $40,000 taken down for that to help them out, we could start evening it out. And then as we do it, we start figuring more things out. It's not like these sports stadiums aren't known for putting 5 or 6 logos on. I'm just trying to be helpful to them because I understand where they're coming from, and I'm trying to see our point of view where we can't keep spending a ton of money. But if we got some corporate sponsorship, I don't think it would hurt that much, and the teams could help out.
Yeah, so we do actually have a sponsorship program for the athletic complex. So that is how we got the naming rights for the complex. What we use those funds for is basically for any future capital maintenance projects. So we kind of have that money set aside and earmarked for when we have to replace the turf infields. That's a $400,000 to $500,000 project. So rather than us having to go back to taxpayers at that time, we have that money set aside there. So the whole goal, I think, in why we do have taxpayer subsidy is that while we have that money there, we don't want to be taking that money and like spending it down. So, and Trisha, who's our community events coordinator, has been very active in soliciting more sponsorship. And so we have been working, like I said, we got Quick Trip, MG&E took one of the field naming rights. I know we are working with some other businesses on some opportunities. So we're trying, but again, it's kind of, I guess then that would be a board decision of if they wanted to change how that funding was prioritized.
I mean, it's no secret Buc-ee's wants to come here. I still don't think it's a great deal. I think it's crap. I'll just say that out loud. But if they want to come into DeForest so damn bad, and they want to make us pay for that damn road, they could pony up some money and help the community. I'm just saying, I think it's totally fair. But you know, there's a little potato company out here. Maybe they could donate a few thousand, or there's lots of companies in this town and surrounding areas. And I'm just thinking it wouldn't hurt too much. I think there's an opportunity there. I want to see those guys not have to like tell the kids, gee, we're going to go from $5 to $25 all of a sudden. And, you know,
I mean, I feel like it also brings up a point of like, is it the village's responsibility to find sponsorship for these individual teams, or should it be the responsibility of those individual teams to solicit sponsorship to help offset, you know, those costs?
I think it's sort of both, because the town wanted to build it and the people wanted to do it. This is what a community's for. And if you want your kids to play baseball and other sports, and the town wants to build the stuff, we got to sort of work together at it. We can't expect them to do everything, and they can't expect us to do everything. I think, like I said, they could have 3 little fundraisers a year. What if they raised 15,000? I mean, 5,000 each. It isn't that much, but it would help. And if we got some corporate sponsorships, at least start evening it out, it would be worth it. I think both sides need to come together on it. That's just my personal view, but
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Tashidra?
This was a lot of information to take in one night. So I do remember this conversation a while ago when we started talking about the changes that needed to happen and grandfathering and extending time and different things of that nature. Before I say what I really want to say with all these notes, I did have a couple questions because there was a lot of numbers that were just put out there. And I just want to make sure that I understand them correctly. You said something about excluding 731 kids. What does that mean? An increase of $6,000. How does that play into it? And these teams that are currently operating, do they fit the overall essence of they make up the number of DeForest residents that they're supposed to? Because we're using words interchangeably, and I think that's confusing people as well, right? We're saying DeForest residents for this, but then we're saying DeForest Area School District, which is a whole different ball of wax because we've got Madison students, some Prairie students, and whomever else wants to come into this. So I really think we need to dial down that jargon as well, because it's confusing when we say we want DeForest Area School District students to participate, and then we get these kiddos excited, they get to the table, the parents do what they need to do to bring them to the table, and then say, oh, wait, you're not a DeForest resident. So, and that's the piece that gets me, is that that's not fair. And obviously, you know, the kiddos are my heart. I'll do anything for kids in our community because they are the future. And if we've got kids that want to get outside and want to do things and not be on electronics and protect their mental health and different things of that nature, I do agree with you in that point. It is our responsibility and our due diligence to make sure that we do that for our kiddos. At the same time, it's a slippery slope when we're talking about fundraising and doing all these different things for specific groups because there's kiddos in our community that they don't play baseball. They want to skateboard and we don't have anything for skateboarding, or they may want to ride their bikes and they can't. So we got to be careful in that way too of what we put our efforts behind, because then it can be exclusionary, right? Like we're only for kids that play baseball. And I'm a softball player, so you already got me, right? So is my daughter. But we need to think about those things holistically, right? We want to make sure that we're showing up for all the kids in DeForest and not groups. So those were just the different things that caught me that I think will help just really nail down what we're actually trying to do. Because the goal for me, when I heard this conversation, when it came before the board, wasn't to exclude kids that want to do what we want them to do, which is be outside, build teamwork, and learn how to be a citizen, because that's what sports is really all about. It's not about money and trophies. It's about instilling those things that help them to integrate into the community and be a positive contributor. And so that's where I stand. Last time we had this conversation, I think when we start changing numbers and dollar signs, individuals have to have time to compensate for that. They have to have time to figure that out. And I don't know that a year is enough time for that, right? Because the season's already started, people have already tried out. And I would never want to tell a kid, oh, you made it, you did what you need to do, but your parents can't afford it. That puts the parents in a bad situation. And we don't want to break up happy homes, right? So those are the different things that I think of that I would totally support giving these teams, because I said this the last time they came before, giving these teams the opportunity to come up to where they need to be. I do think new teams should start with the new rules. Old teams should be grandfathered in and worked with and given time because they've done their due diligence of being collaborative partners with us. And we don't ever want to burn that bridge or poo-poo on that relationship because the kiddos are watching.
Yeah, so hopefully I remember the questions all, but so the 731 youth participants that we were talking about, those were the three, or that was the number that Windsor Heat, Windsor DeForest Baseball, and DeForest Area Youth Football. If you take those three organizations, they have a total of 731 kids that are a part of the DeForest Area School District. So they could be Windsor residents, they could be Sun Prairie, but they're in the school district. Of that 731, I believe it's 308 are Village of DeForest residents. And I totally agree with the confusion and interchanging the DeForest Area School District to Village of DeForest. And I think that's where we look to, because how can we be the most inclusive with these programs? And if we were to say we have to build a number based off of Village of DeForest, then we're kind of making a line that every year these larger organizations, Windsor Heat, Windsor DeForest Baseball, and DeForest Area Youth Football, are trying to see, are they meeting that percentage line of how many kids are Village of DeForest residents? And so our recommendation was, rather than saying Village of DeForest residents, is that you have to serve kids from the DeForest Area School District. You have to be a not-for-profit, you have to have open registration. We know that means that there's going to be Madison residents. We know that means there could be Windsor residents, Sun Prairie residents, but then those players would be required to pay that non-resident fee because their taxes are not coming. We're not getting their tax base to the community. So that's how we found where then it's not creating an unsettled position for those larger organizations that are providing for the whole community, is clearing up that language. However, then the definition for those local leagues would then be very specific to Village of DeForest. And I think that is an attempt to make sure that we don't have for-profit groups that are coming in and saying, I have a team that's 50% Village of DeForest residents, and now they can qualify for this discounted rate. So kind of keeping that language that we have seen has been a successful language to, making sure that we're serving DeForest residents, but excluding, for-profit or other tournament teams that aren't serving Village of DeForest residents. So that is the difference between the two. Was there another question? Did I miss the? Oh, yeah, it was the 6,000. So that was based on the non-resident fee increase. So if you look at here, these numbers together, and if the other program for the single teams, it would be about a $6,000 or no, it is in total about a $6,000 increase from what we're getting right now, because Windsor DeForest Baseball is a significantly larger organization. So that means that we would be getting practice scheduling fees from their teams. We would be getting the non-resident fee and then whatever games, which would be higher. And the fee's not higher, but larger quantity.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any more? Okay, I agree with a lot of what Tashidra said. And I did have a little bit more of a question. If you could just give me a good example using the Windsor baseball team. What they're paying now in 2025, going to the new fee structure. What's about the difference there, the dollar amount that they would be paying at the higher rate total? And how many families does that affect?
So between the three sanctioned organizations that it would impact, so looking at the total based off of this year, so you can see last year the group paid $16.15 per hour. It would be on a little more than double for the first group, so it'd be $33.46 per hour. So right here, it would be, so they paid $420 total this year for their fees. For their game fees, it would be $600. And then this team, the practice fee would be $270. So it's not as much of an increase for this group. I mean, it is still a $350, I think, increase, if I am doing math off the top of my head correctly. Then this group, so they paid $420 as well. The games would go up to $600. And then this is where you can see it's a significant impact because of their practice, the amount of practice time that they have. So theirs is a significant increase. I'm gonna just take out my calculator because I'm just not good at head math. What? 450? Okay, thank you. Let's see. So for this group, it would be a significant, I mean, it's a $2,330 increase. And then for the last group, 1250, 12 would be 1250 difference. And that is putting all of their practice time in that $30 range. So that would be that prime practice time ranges. But yeah, the games would be that increased rate.
Okay, so these are the breakdowns for the different tiers that you just gave me. So where does the Windsor baseball fit in?
These,
Or I'm sorry. Okay, Group D, so the 1250 a year. The 23.
Yep.
Okay. And how many families do you have? 12. Okay.
I think one big thing that I know we talked about the last time, just to point out with all of this, is I know Reese kind of mentioned it, it's just like the sheer amount of practices that are used, and that's one of the really big impacts in this new fee structure. So just one thing there.
But yeah, and these are all just the single teams. So the changes for like Windsor Heat, if they were to still be considered a sanctioned group, their change would be $680 for, 100, I'd have to go back to the other slide. 124, I think, participants, something like that.
Okay, thank you. Else? There's a lot here. Um, and I'll have to say, this is the first time I've seen it. I know at the village board level, we spoke on this subject in March, I believe. And we all kind of came together that we do need to do something with our fees. And we do need to be fiscally responsible for the deforest property tax payers. So knowing that, we've gotten to this part here. I don't know, you're saying that we need a vote tonight on this?
We're hoping to have a recommendation to be able to just provide to the village board tomorrow during, it's a discussion only. So we'll basically be providing the same presentation. And then trying to see what the direction is that the village board wants to go. And then we would come back for an action item at a later village board meeting. Depending again on what the village board says. So if the village board wants to bring this back here or whatever it is, I mean, we'll follow that direction.
Okay, so you're saying we do not need a vote, but we need to decide if it's going to go to the village board.
We are looking for a recommendation of which one of these options to go to the village board
Okay.
with.
Don has one more question.
Going back to, what did you say? Oh, I'm sorry. The 700 plus would not qualify. That's a lot of kids. And I mean, I agree with Tashidra. To disqualify 765 kids kind of breaks my heart. A lot of these kids, that's the only thing they have. And I wish I know I'm a taxpayer, so I just think us taxpayers are paying, what, $16 a year? Or,
I mean, it says 16 in there, but one thing I wanted to say is that it was used at a $350
Correct.
average
Oh,
price,
it's a little-
or it's more like
it's
five.
more.
Five.
Yeah, it's more, but $25 that could possibly help 765 kids. For me, I don't see any of these options helping any of them. I'm sorry, but I listened to the gentleman that spoke. I'm sorry, Mr. Roth. Yeah. And it's so important. These kids live for this. And for so many families in this district, these children, this is the only thing they have all summer. So I just wanted to give my little speech.
Go ahead, Judd.
I just asked, option one is the one that affects the 700 some people, right? So option one, if you're saying you don't want to affect the most children, you should not choose option one. Option two, I think, affects the least amount. Unfortunately, it's 3 user groups, right? That would not be deemed sanctioned programs, and that's 48 users, right? But you could, with that, give them a 1-year grace period, which I think I heard Mr. Roth say. He gives, at least if they had a year, they would be able to still provide what they provided for their students this year, their players this year, again next year, and then give those families an opportunity to try out on other teams, to join other organizations, or ultimately say, hey, we want to continue this and bring more money to the table for our players one more year, right? So, and Risa said this option two, she's made no change to the budget, so 2025, we could absorb that cost for 1 more year. Then option 3 is make recommended changes to the sanction programs only. So I think 2 is the one that is the most generous in all directions at this point. Fair to say, Reese?
No, I agree.
I agree too. Option 2 is the best. And I am totally for the grace period. I do want to say though that we need to still go back to that fiscal responsibility that we owe our taxpayers. And I just want everyone to know that as a single mom, I raised my 2 girls here and they have been on sports teams since 3rd and 4th grade. 3 sport athletes all through high school. As a single mom, we played a lot of club sports and we did a lot of traveling, and you do what you got to do. So there does have to be something that we do with our fees. Maybe this isn't exactly it. But I think by giving the grace period, and I don't know if there's a possibility of maybe tweaking the numbers in option 2 in the situation, if that would be a possibility. If we could possibly look at that, maybe that could help and we could find a medium a little bit more. So between the grace period and maybe more of a little medium right there for that group, maybe that would be a better workable situation. Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding the grace period, if you're not going to allow additional sanctioned organizations, we're the youngest group. Our group will probably be seriously playing baseball for 2 more years till our kids hit high school. There's nobody younger than us that has a team like this. So a grace period of 2 years would be hugely beneficial to us while not impacting too many other people. And one other suggestion regarding the fee structure. The springtime is the heaviest time of practices for a team like ours. It's also a low amount of usage time for teams that play during the summer, specifically the Parks and Recs programs. And so if there was an opportunity to have those considered even in the future to be non-peak times, that might be another idea.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, my only question was gonna be, I certainly think that we could look at some of the other fees, and if it's talking about just looking at those local league fees, we could certainly review those again, and that could be, again, part of the recommendation is, like, we like this, but we would like to see, you know, a review of the non-peak time fees or whatever that is, and we can bring that back.
Okay, are we ready to move forward?
I just want to add, I like the idea of taking a look at the complex in its entirety and see if we're using that equitably across the board, right? The other thing that I was going to say is, yes, it's only 48 kids, but that's a lot of kids when you're talking about kids. 1 is too many in my book. So I am for giving a 2-year grace period. 1 year is just not enough. I don't think. So I'm in favor of that. I think option 2 is a good idea. It really saddens me that we're even having this type of conversation right now. To be honest with you, because we talk about taxpayers and all the things, like I'm a taxpayer and I don't even go to that complex. Like I'm paying for something I'm not even using, right? And there's a ton of things in our community that taxpayers are paying for that we're not using equitably. Like I don't have any kids that go to the parks and play in the splash pad and different things of that nature. So I definitely want us to keep that in mind when we say taxpayers are paying. Yes, we are. But I want to make sure that the taxpayers are understanding that we're paying for the whole village and we're a community. And I want us to keep that feel. So I would be supportive of the recommendation because that's what you're looking for. And I just really want to be respectful of time because I just got off a 3rd shift. So I would be in favor of a 2-year grace period. If option 2 is the one that has the least amount of impact to our kiddos, I would support that. But then I would put the caveat of, Reese, I know this is more work for you, but just really looking at the complex in its totality and seeing where can we use the numbers. Math is math, and we can always move things around to make it make sense so that people that, or the teams that have the means, and the teams that don't still do their part, but we're not breaking their back.
Was that, I missed, you were wanted to say something earlier, Eric? Are you okay? Okay. Okay.
2 year.
Okay.
Was that a motion,
Was
but
that, we were gonna make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion that we allow for a 2-year grace period to the teams, that we look at option 2 with looking at the athletic complex in its totality to see where we can make the fees more equitable across the board in terms of time, usage, and different things of that nature. Was that it?
Okay, yes, perfect.
I'll second that.
Eric gave the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay. Moving on to 7.3. Discussion and recommendation on park concepts.
So, I'll take this one. We did a really long endeavor, over the entire, summer with the Park and Connects. You as village board folks, were part of, you as, Public Service Committee folks were part of that group. One night in, July when we were at Dale Jenkins Community Park, right? So because of that and what we had online, this is, our Park and Connect project and the feedback that was received. So we had a total of 152 contributors, with 182 contributions. That means, some people contributed more than once. 87% of the respondents live in the village of the Forest. Again, that engagement started May 22nd and ran through September 29th. So way more than ample time for people to provide feedback, and it was on our Engage the Forest platform. I ranked these in order that they were prioritized. So one of those comments, in the middle of in the survey was, which parks did you want to happen first, right? So the top getting park that wanted, a refresh was the Conservancy Commons Park, the splash pad, and a layout refresh. So, basically, concept 3 was the most preferred for the splash pad, which is kind of like a play structure, an activity tower, lower slides, but just something different than just a regular old splash pad. And then the concept 3 layout was the most preferred at 67%. That was just adding this little nodule, into the playground to the, what would be the west, or the top image of that top section of the playground, the brown section. There's a darker brown just to the top of that. That would be the area that would be improved with some additional play equipment. But residents emphasize keeping parks visually distinct from others was kind of the thing, the overall arching comments from that might have occurred. The concept number 2, that the park number 2 that was, highest vote getting was Rivers Turn Phase 3 Park. We don't have a name for that park yet, so we would certainly want to endeavor on getting that, situated sooner and later as well. But this was favored by 79% of the people for concept 2, and that's where all of the amenities are really to, the one side of the park and leaving the other, empty side more open for free play. We could potentially do some park programming in there from a recreation aspect. There's a desire though for full basketball or multi-sport courts, and pickleball and soccer areas, that green space and privacy buffer is important to those nearby residents. So there would be some plantings there along what would be the top corner of this image, right? There was an interest in restrooms and accessible paths. So we already have paths, plotted out, where it comes along that house that's kind of being built there. There's a path that's running there. So we'll have a connection from that path through the park to the other side. So the next top, park, the third park that people wanted was Shane O'Donnell Park. And, there were some key takeaways there. Was concept 1 was preferred by 81% of the respondents, which is this image. There was a really strong community interest that came out, midway through late into this process for futsal courts. Futsal court. So futsal is basically soccer on concrete or asphalt. But it's really designed for footwork and skills. There's not tackling, meaning there's no sliding to get the ball, whatnot. It's really more driven in using footwork. Sam knows about futsal, so I'll let you address it.
I don't know if I know a lot about futsal, Judd. I just know, I think, one thing just for the community is there used to be at least a year or two ago. I'm not sure, I haven't seen the school reservations yet, but there is a large futsal contingent that uses some of the school district gyms in the winter. So just the community does, play the sport.
No. No, futsal it's an enclosed, so it's really an enclosed area. So the ball stays contained in that, so they don't have to go chasing after it. This group futsal does a lot of practicing currently at Western Green Park at the basketball court there. But they have to either they station parents at the one end so the balls don't go into the retention pond. But otherwise kids are spending a lot of time chasing after balls. And I've actually seen some youth over at this basketball court playing some futsal, right? Without a net, without a goal there. So it's something that's unique that that the nearest futsal area that really is in us is in downtown Madison. I think it's Penn Park has a futsal court. So we are something special for sure. So there's always mixed opinions on pickleball basketball courts with noise and parking. This isn't going to be a real destination with those pickleball courts. It's not like we've got 4 here where people are driving. There would be some limited people coming to this, but this is really to help facilitate that the western side of town and give some options. This is something we heard from a couple of these residents 2-3 years back, really wanting some additional amenities here in this park because their kids just didn't have a lot to do. So there was support for restrooms, playground expansion, and shade trees, and then dual use winter ice rink option. Restrooms, I think we would probably just end up putting in probably a portalet here, porta potty. And then we've tried for years to create ice rinks. We just don't have winter like we once had. So I don't know that we can accomplish that. So those top 3 are ones that we have planned in the budget for next year. That's before the village board that are laid out in our capital improvement plan, and have some either tax money or it's park money that we've raised from developments, right? The 4th park that will then come at a future date here in the next 5 years, part of our open space plan, was the Dale Jenkins Park. So we've got this trail system through here. The top requested features were a restroom building. They didn't want to see portalets here. Some additional seating benches, and a playground expansion were the big things, right? Pavilion, shelter, and the yard games also came in there. There was some mixed opinions about yard games and noise impacts. They're from a limited segment of that development area there, and really they're the ones who are right along the park. So keep my comments to myself.
You know what, can I just interrupt you? You might know the answer to this question. How many houses are in that development? And are there any multifamily units?
No multi-family.
Multifamily, I didn't think so.
I think maybe 90, Greg thinks somewhere in that. I think,
90 houses?
and we've taken great care to provide this park based on what's available to the park just to the north, Windsor, what is it? Windsor Park, Windsor
Community.
Commons, or it's their bigger park, right? So that park there has a lot of amenities. So we've tried to find things that are not as that are different or providing thing, and trying to be low impact. The original concept for this park was in that bubble in this bottom part of the image was to have a basketball court. We heard from one resident very loudly over there that they didn't want to hear basketballs dribbling. They'd moved from one area where they lived by a park because they heard kids having fun, and they didn't want to hear that with this one. So we've made some concessions, we've done some other things, but we also have to balance the needs of the community that we serve down here. And this area and this further south are kind of isolated from the rest of it. So we need to provide some amenities to folks. So The fifth one then is Bill Baki and Nelson Conservancy Park, right? So the strong concept was 79% of those residents. They really wanted natural play features, trails and accessibility. And they really emphasized preserving trees and wildlife habitat and a desire there for the central shelter and multi-path connections. So this one has all the paths kind of crossing through that middle section. And then we've left, if you've noticed there, we've thinned it out. So it looks like we've taken a lot of trees down, but we really haven't. Is the undergrowth and the underbrush that we've done a lot of work on in there. And any undesired trees, we would work to move on, but we'll be restoring it back to kind of an oak savanna-ish type thing as we move along here. But this one will be happening again in the coming area. There'll be some sort of a restroom, a pavilion shelter and parking lot. So it'll be a slightly higher price ticket for a park. I think this one, but there's some more planning we want to do and reach out to some specialty groups that would benefit from having a sensory park like this. So I think this is 6 in my line of park preferences. So Ziggy Field adjacent park. Again, we don't have a name for it, but there was concept 1 was preferred by 75% of the respondents. So it was a skate park with mixed concerns about traffic, noise, and proximity to residences. Really, the proximity to residences are these apartments here. Sorry, Sam. Across the street, there's the big barn apartments that are Windsor. But there is a development here that has a handful of multi-tenant buildings there. But again, it is something that we don't have in the area. There was some concerns from GRB about the mix of being next to a baseball complex. I've talked to other skate park organizations that build those things, and they've given me plenty of references where they're near other baseball facilities, and it's not a concern. So, but there's suggestions for fencing and ensuring ADA accessibility. So, this is the highest price tag for a park. The developer in this area really wants to see this park being accomplished sooner rather than later. But again, this came in 6th, and it's the highest price tag. So. We'll have to be doing some additional planning on that and when we might slate this in within the next 5 years. And then I think the last one is the Northern Industrial Park. So this is Porter Pipe. The supply is this building here, right? So this is all of their land that they have. This sliver here is what we have for the Northern Industrial Park. So the dog park is here. This includes extending trails and scenic overlooks is what was popular ideas. The pump track and picnic area is nice. Expanded parking. The dog park is a highly desirable area, so some additional parking there for that. And then to facilitate people coming out to here, and then support for natural preservation and accessibility. So again, it's a low impact area that we can't do a whole lot with for structures that would be embedded into the ground for being in a floodway, but it is a nice amenity. And then for the village, we would have our own nursery here that we can start to establish to grow our own trees and then replant them back into street terrace areas. So overall, the community feedback and common themes was a broad support for adding amenities that serve all ages, high interest in restrooms, shelters, and shaded seating. Residents value natural space, trees, and accessibility concerns. Do have some for parking, noise, and overdevelopment in residential areas, and then a desire for parks with unique features. So that's what we heard overall from the community in general, and wanted to share that with y'all.
Question?
Or potpourri, yes.
Good job. Great presentation. I'm excited for our parks and all the changes to come.
Anybody else?
My one comment is, and I hear this because I live over by Western Green, is there, people say that, okay, now it's going to be Conservancy and Rivers Turn. Those parks are pretty close to each other. They're not real far apart. Why could we not consider the Nelson Baki Park. I realized the voting didn't show that, but if only 80 people voted or 150 people voted, I mean, this is a huge community and they had 4 months to vote. Very apathetic, I feel, but I just think that Nelson Baki Park is something we don't have yet anywhere near it. And it sounds like it's gonna be what, 5 years, did you say? Greg?
It,
Or,
plan is in the next 5 years with that, you remember our Parks and Open Space Plan? Is that what it is currently, or does it change the name to something else?
The comprehensive outdoor recreation.
Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan, right? I know it the old way, and that's the way it sticks in my head, sorry. So, within the next 5 years, we were planning to do these various parks, right? So these three will be slated into next year, kind of works for us. I think that helps. I think I'm excited for the Baki one, but I think we want to do a little bit more due diligence planning to make sure it's exactly what we want there. So to give us at least another year is beneficial.
I would also imagine with that type of park, there could be opportunities maybe for grants out there when you're looking at, accessible parks and things like that. So I feel like that would be something that we would certainly want to explore and could move up its priority of when they could be done.
It also includes that park includes a trail connection with a bridge over to Stevenson, to the trail in Stevenson as another point of reference or access point to that park. Getting a crossing on the river from the DNR is arduous and it takes a little longer than we might need. So I do envision this park maybe taking phases, right? Before it's fully completed. Just because it's got so many moving parts and elements to it, that it may take us a little while to do that. So we might have to kind of piecemeal it as we go along.
I'm glad Dawn asked that question because I was wondering more about Baki Park also, the Baki Nelson Park. And those were great answers. I mean, now I understand it more. So it totally makes sense.
In my heart, I really wanted that one to be the top vote getter because I'm really excited about that park, but it also gives us time to make sure we're doing it in a right manner. Yep. Any other comments, questions, general? It's not really a recommendation area, but if you can just generally show some support for it with a thumbs up or whatever, we can share that with the board.
I think, can we give the thumbs up?
Or I've heard it
Thumbs up?
too verbally.
All right.
You don't have to, I know.
Take it, you can move it along. All right, 7.4, discussion regarding University Alliance initiatives for the DeForest Mountain Bike Trail.
So there was a memo in the packet, right, that we're working actually with two different groups. One is a single individual, Lola Lee, and the best ways that we can provide public with a full picture of the mountain bike plan. So I think we had close to 280 respondents in 2 weeks. So if you harken back to what I just talked about at the park one, we had that open for months and we had less than 200. This one, people really jumped on and gave us feedback. So there may be some lessons learned by being more short and compact with our timeline. Maybe that fosters a sense of urgency for people to give us their feedback. So maybe something for us to consider in future survey stuff. So, and we'll get back to Lola because she provided us with something that I'll share with you that we weren't able to get in the packet because she sent it to us today. The second track, we're working with a group of 6, 7 students, and these students are really working to deliver a report that shares the areas, plants, animals, sensitive zones that we should be wary of in that 16-acre parcel, and where we could put a mountain bike, where it's best suited to put the mountain bike and to avoid impacts. So that way we're being environmentally sensitive to this, which leads me into yeah. I'm going to the right. This thing? All right. You're So Lola put this together. So this is a community survey response, right? So mountain biking into forest. So I'll kind of read this to you since you haven't had a chance to see it, and I don't mean to be that way, but it's community built around nature, and there's other ways we might want to explore it on two wheels. So some proposed trail facts. Proposed area is a newly acquired parkland that's 16 acres. Estimated development would be in 2026, 2027, with a focus on sustainability and accessibility. So the overview, we're shaping new mountain bike trails in recently acquired parkland, opening more ways to ride for residents and visitors. In 2022, a mountain bike ad hoc group was assembled, and that project's kind of being guided by public input and ongoing design work. Each trail would reflect the forest's natural character while having all skill levels and while caring for sensitive habitats. So what we heard from the community, an awareness of existing trails was kind of a general question. 70%, 265 respondents were unaware of any existing either authorized or unauthorized trails. 20% said yes, and 9% were unsure. Right. Park trail and usage frequency. Over 80% of respondents use parks weekly or more, highlighting a community already engaged with outdoor spaces. So the biggest response there is 48.5% weekly use of our trails or our outdoor spaces. Was there an interest in a new eco-friendly trail? Yes, overwhelmingly 310 respondents, 83% were very interested. So they were highly supportive of creating an official sustainable mountain biking trail into forest. This strong enthusiasm highlights both community readiness and the importance of thoughtful, eco-conscious planning. So what makes a trail more inviting? The top features that encourage residents to use the new mountain bike trail is scenic routes, a safe design, family-friendly options with accessibility, and then educational signage and other things being 19%. So really the emphasis on scenic and safe routes for riders of all ages. What they expect from a new trail is recreation, health and wellness, some youth engagement, right? So there's always that middle core that we can never quite seem to do it. And mountain biking seems to be one of those things that's grabbing a lot of kids in the area. So that's pretty cool. Tourism, economic growth, 47%. I don't know that that's really going to be an impact here with this trail, but it's certainly, there is always that people do like to come and explore new areas and do certain things. So, and then there's environmental education component that we can do in this section, which is what that other University Alliance group is doing for us. So most respondents see the trail as a space for recreation, wellness, and youth engagement as the primary drivers. Were there any concerns expressed about building a trail? 57% said none. 24% were unauthorized trail use. And so that, we'll have to, it's one thing we'll have to monitor when the trail goes in and make sure there's education components about you bike on the trail this way, but if you want to walk the trail, you go in the opposite direction. So everybody can cohabitate on that trail and get out of the way of each other as those happen. 23% were environmental impact, safety being at 19%, maintenance costs and noise came in really low. But while most expressed few concerns, environmental and safety considerations remain important. So again, those are two things that we're tackling. One with the University Alliance group, the other group of students, and then the environmental and safety concerns are also things that we'll have to do with educational components. So how important residents feel is to manage unauthorized trail use. It's somewhat important is the biggest thing. The community values balanced oversight, emphasizing collaboration over restrictions, right? So, and then staying connected with the project, preferred ways residents would like to receive project updates. This was actually really encouraging. Social media, village website, we're the big vote getters, right? A school newsletter, we certainly could reach out, talk to the school. I know they send out, there's a school newsletter, but then the school also has a component that is for events or other things in the community, right? That aren't necessarily affiliated with the school, that maybe we could ask them if they could share some of this information to their residents. Thank you. And community meetings, flyer posters. So they prefer quick, accessible digital updates, especially through social media and the village website. more than 80 respondents shared their email address and really want to be involved in the park, in the development of the mountain bike trail. So we'll be setting up email distribution groups and looking to continue exchanging ideas and feedback and how we can gather them in. But we're really excited to move forward collaboratively. We'll use your insights to ensure new trail reflects community values, safety, and environmental care. There'll be addendums coming to this booklet as Lola continues to do her work, and then the other university students come in. We're looking to put in an action step to this booklet at the end of this, right? So this is just what we got. I mean, that survey closed last week, Wednesday, and Lola turned this around pretty quickly for us to get this here. So thoughts, questions,
Anybody?
feedback?
If you could just express our gratitude to both of these groups on the work that they're doing and just the turnaround and the desire to give us the input first. Second, this is so very exciting, and I'm hoping that we can circle back around to those kiddos years ago and just let them know their voices were heard, and even though things go slow, they're still going, because we want to send that message to our kids that if they have a need and a want and a desire that benefits them and the community, we are listening.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Jed. 7.5, discussion regarding university alliance initiatives for public service buildings. Who's taking this?
Yeah, I can take this one. So same with Judd's project here. We're working with the Alliance, University Alliance Group on a public service building proposal to build a new building in one location. So right now we're kind of spread out between here, Shanku Way, Yardway site. Kind of, our machines are everywhere, and we're out of space at all of our locations. So we've got the 5-acre parcel next to our current storage building that is held for a future public services building, which could house all of our equipment, recreational space, for people and storage of all their equipment. Also looking at like departments, like the PD is always in need of more storage. Village Hall, library, possibly the library if they've got some things. So the Alliance Group, they're comprised of like 5 to 6 people. They're working on, what's gonna be best for our building. Like, they're gonna look at the layout, give us some concepts, ideas. It's kind of where we're at now.
This is basically just for storage or?
No,
I mean, we have the building here. Will it still
the,
be used?
this building will be repurposed, whether it gets sold or, maybe, we use it for rec. We don't know yet. We don't know what's gonna happen.
And the
that
brush
building.
place will still be open, or are you moving?
The what?
Like our
Oh, the
brush-
brush yard waste site would still be in that location, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you, Greg. Department updates. Public service?
All right, Highway V, still ongoing project. We're hoping it doesn't rain tomorrow. We'll do the center line pavement markings between Stevenson and Main Street and open that up, probably Wednesday if we get it, painted tomorrow. And then we're continuing to work from Stevenson to basically the roundabouts where with asphalt removal and trail building along the north side of the road. So that road will be opened up fully with still construction, active construction on V. CV is closed for the next 2 to 3 weeks down there just north of Innovation Drive. Dane County's replacing that culvert. So should be open up first week of November, I would think. And then South Street, once that's opened back up, we're gonna resurface the last 2 sections of South Street. those will be, I don't want to close them off fully, but have to flag them. Should be a pretty quick process, be done in a week. We went to Meadowview Ponds, stormwater ponds. They were getting overgrown with cattails and sediment. They're roughly 30 years old. Our staff did a really good job. We rented a big backhoe, dredged the ponds out. We had 237 loads, I think I counted, of sediment and cattails, and
Wow.
the ponds were actually full up to the top of the, banks. And they've been that way for like several years. I'm like, that doesn't look right. But so we dug them out and water level dropped about 2 to 3 feet back to where they should be. So that was a good project. And if you do hear from anybody, we are reseeding the areas that were disturbed with native plantings, and it will regrow, sprout back up and look just as good as it did before. So
That's good to know. I did hear about that. And I also got a call on what's gonna happen if you guys ruin the road? I've had about 100 trucks go by today.
well, you can tell them that the roads are built with 18 inches of base, and they're built for our trucks.
Good deal. Thank you.
Oh yeah, we do have the leaf vac truck out, started last week, so this week we started on the west side, and we'll get through the whole town. Last week it took 2 days to do the whole village, so.
Okay, great.
yeah, for
People love the leaf truck
yeah,
Yeah.
street sweeping.
compared to what it used to be.
My needs are waiting.
Thank you. All right. 8.2 Recreation and Community Enrichment Update.
Yeah, so quick updates. This past weekend we hosted our end of the season regional flag football tournament. So we had 2, or actually 3 DeForest teams, and then we had 10 other communities that had teams participating. We hosted a total of 49 flag football teams. It went on Saturday morning, started about 8:30, finished about 3, and in that time span we got 58 games, and so it was a busy day. But yeah, we were on site. We had some of our referees and the other departments helping as well, kind of get through it. But it was a good day for everyone who attended and played. And then on the athletic complex, we do have our last tournament of the season coming up this weekend. So we'll have a softball tournament that's going to go Saturday, Sunday, and then that'll be it for the year.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I got a few things too. So, the farmer's market was, ended last week, so we have some surveys out to the vendors and to the public, for some feedback on that. We, started programming yesterday at DeForest Yard, so, that was exciting being in there. We started our little skaters, so programs start with 3-year-olds. And then I think the oldest participant might have been like 13 or something like that. But that was fun to see them getting out on the ice. And then we will be opening applications for the DeForest or the DeForest Dragon Arts Fair for 2026. Those applications open and at the end of the month, so we're already getting ready for 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Question, quick. Question.
You turned it off.
Red is, yeah, green is on. The ice skating rink, will there be I'd love to go ice skating again. And will there have skates for renting or, I mean, I used to always go to Tenny Park and rent my skates and skate there. So will there be something for adults coming?
Yes, so we do have some no school day options right now, but we're working to get some other options. And then when the outdoor rink is open as well, we're looking for some special events. have limited ice skate rentals for our programs right now, so we have enough for our participants. But when they get fully like finished, then they will have ice skate rentals for the public as well. So there will be some public options for all ages, along with their programs and ice skate rentals when we get there. Hopefully they'll have those.
Okay, thank you, Reese. 8.3, natural resources update.
Yep, three things, I guess, real quick. There will be some prescribed burns that are happening, as weather allows, by our group Quercus that does our natural land stewardship stuff. The stream bank revitalization project will happen next spring. We did get a little bidder with Drax that was approved by the board last board meeting. We're working through that progress with them. And then we're working on, we did just get notified today that we got another DNR grant award for what's called TRIM, Total Runoff Management Grant, which is a big number, like a $200,000 grant or something for
Wow.
264. So that will be for our phase 3 of the stream bank revitalization project. And so we'll be working on planning for that work to come in probably 2027, because we'll have phase 1 and 2 happening next year. And then third thing, oh yeah, this Saturday we're doing a work day with Trouts Unlimited. They've become a great partner, right? On top of them donating $17,000 to us for the stream bank revitalization. They came to Yahara River Fest and did a fly fishing clinic. And they're also going to come and help us clean out some honeysuckles. There is a huge batch of it. If you ever walked our Conservancy Trail, just before you get to the boardwalk section, by the end of Prairie Fire Court there, it's all honeysuckle, and we're going to try to wipe out as much of that as we can in one day with them. So we're excited to get that opportunity to do that with them. So if you're interested, you can come along. And yeah, they'll have a check presentation as well for them to say, hey, they donated this money to help us. So they've got they get some PR as we do as well. So this Saturday from 8 to noon.
Awesome. Lots of great stuff. Congratulations on the grants. Yeah. Okay, any other business that needs to come before this Public Services Committee? No, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, meeting's adjourned.